Hello, my name is Israel, and I am doing my presentation on this image. Unfortunately, this doesn't have a name, but it does involve the Vietnam anti-protest movements in the 1970s. Okay, so who is the photograph made by? This is the photographer. His name is John Philo, who at the time was a Kent State senior photography student, and the woman in the photo is actually Marianne Vecchio. She is actually not a student in the from the school on campus. She's actually a 14-year-old runaway, and beneath her lies the body of 20-year-old Jeffrey Miller, who was a passerby student, not involved in the protest shootings. Okay, the photograph was most likely taken by uh, a Necromat film camera. It's a vintage 1970 film camera, based on John Philo himself mentioning that he was running out of film. This was most likely his last or final shots before his before finishing his documentation. The photo was made uh, soonly after that same evening. John Philo himself mentioned in an interview that he was working at a newspaper publishers, but they said that they wanted to hold off to publish the image till the next day. But Philo persisted and actually got it posted that same evening on May 14th. Oh, sorry, on May 4th, 1970. So how was it influential? How was it influential? The photo itself became very popular once it was published. At the time, there were numerous protests against the Vietnam War, and this tragedy extended that even further. It practically boosted it. Um, in fact, in the 1970s at the time, there was actually a decrease in involvement in America's involvement in Vietnam. Uh, so what really triggered the Kent State shooting protest to initiate? That all had to deal with Richard Nixon. On April 28th, Richard Nixon authorized a preemptive strike for U.S. troops to cross south of Vietnam into Cambodia. Just a few days later, Nixon did conduct a speech on national TV justifying his actions, which of course triggered a new fresh wave of anti-Vietnam protests, one of which were, of course, in Kent State. May 1st and 2nd, students were involved in rallies throughout the downtown area of Kent State. By the second day, policemen herded the enormous crowd into the school itself, onto the campus, and that was when the mayor at the time, Liam Santrum, called the National Guard to help aid because he believed there was going to be violence. May 3rd, 1970, over 1,000 demonstrators at the time were oh, sorry, over 1,000 demonstrators set fire on campus of the ROTC building. That was national, and that was when 1,200 National Guards occupied the campus, and were just monitoring them and enclosing them from further damages. Now, May 4th itself was when the actual shooting took place. So by noon, roughly 3,000 students, not all of them were protesting, by the way, only a small handful. They grew impatient because they were supposed to meet with officials, but they actually never ended up showing up. So this allowed them to grow violent and block traffic and protesters. Soonly after, um, they started harassing the guardsmen by throwing sticks and rocks. Eventually, guardsmen, like over 100 of them, confronted the protesters, and then 28 of them, standing up on a hill, fired into the small crowd, and then leaving 4 dead, including Jeffrey Miller, and 9 injured. So how is this historically significant? Once this was released, the incident spread like wildfire, or rather the picture itself. People became more angered and vocal about the Vietnam War than ever before, and then there was a lot more protests spreading around the country. And then this photo is of one on May 9th, so just like a week after, at the White House itself. Controversies surrounding the photo. The photo itself brought a anti-patriotic feel to those in favor of the war. Many believe that the protesters were actually the aggressors and that they were in the wrong. And then the Kent State shootings slash killings brought the tensions in and also divided America on a new level. Students at the campus across the nation went on strike because they felt like the killings were unjustified, but others, however, felt like they were justified. The photographer's purpose. So John Philo explained that running away in the scene was not what he was there for. He was at the time he was like I mentioned he was working at a local newspaper, so he was determined to document the aftermath of the protests. Believing that the killings were unjust, John Philo quickly rushed that evening to publish the photo for the world to see. And then, how has this photo been used? It became a center icon for what took place at Kent State during the Vietnam War protests, or just a protest or protesting the anti-Vietnam War in general, discussing about the incident at Kent State, discussing Kent State. You're practically guaranteed to find this image and signifying its impact on that place and what the what the protesters at the time were fighting for. Other news publishers and articles would have to address this matter and would actually most likely use the same photo. And then every time there's an anniversary on May 4th, which this upcoming May 4th would make its 52-year anniversary of this event happening. Other photos from the same era, these are just other documentations from the soldiers and like other protesters itself. Their motives are generally the same, documenting what happened during the time, and we see that the protesters are basically fighting an uphill battle, quite literally here. Okay, and then other works from other photographers, from John Philo, the same. He did mention that he was running out of film, and I would say that these two last photos, although it being of the same victim, it's taken at a different angle. And then, how do I personally feel about this photo? Is I can't really stop but feel secondhand embarrassment for those in favor of defying the justified killings. It's a tragedy that this event could have been avoided, if the National Guard just kept their distance from the protesters. And it just infuriates me that America in general is just so stubborn and persists to ruining things without acknowledging that they're actually making it worse. And yeah, these are my sources. And thank you for listening.